I mean, you guys read the emails, you guys struggled yourselves, like.
I'm still struggling.
I know.
The struggle is real and present.
I talked to Steve yesterday, or last week.
No, I had some good ideas for my class. I basically turned it over to the students and said, what are you already involved with that we could maybe join as a class? And so that's where we stand now. We have a student who's the president of Make-A-Wish Foundation, and they need help with their biggest fundraiser when they sell hot chocolate and baked goods at the Christmas lights in the neighborhood next door, and that's where they get a lot of their money to. So one of our students, she made up a one sheet, and so she's trying to schedule students. So we're still,
That's good.
I don't want to be like super duper negative. I'm trying not to be. But my biggest problem was the last meeting we went to. I had some ideas, and I honestly felt like they were like shot down. That they weren't having my kids get involved enough. Because one of my ideas was we do a Helping Kids Fund, and that's basically just kids bringing in toys or money. And with the conversations, it was like the kids really should be doing something. And so that had been my original idea. And then when it was kind of like, okay, we want the kids more doing something, I then had to go back to the drawing board, and I just didn't have time to really go back to the drawing board. But then I saw some other people's ideas and things that they did, and those happened to be some people that weren't at the meeting.
She's talking about me.
which is fine. But it's just, someone had the kids just bring in jeans, which is great and awesome and wonderful, and I have no problems with that. But it's like, I just felt like, I kind of felt like I wasn't allowed to do that,
Right.
which I felt like I had some restrictions put on me. Which was good in the sense that it made me explore some more options, but then also it just made it so the time constraint became a little bit more real, because the idea I had, I felt like I couldn't do. We did end up doing that anyways, because I was like, well, if other people are doing it, I guess I can too.
Right.
But then we also, talking to one of the special ed math teachers about it, because it's the head of our special ed department that does the Helping Kids Fund, she said, I would love if your kids made flashcards for my low-level kids. And so I just kind of went through, I asked her like what types of flashcards she wanted. She wanted integers, addition and subtraction, like negative 20 to 20, and then multiplication up through like 12 multiplication and division. And so I kind of went through and made like a little worksheet for my kids, and then they went through, and we ended up making last Thursday, I got some pictures, but I didn't get any video, so I still need to blog about it. I think we made 480 flashcards.
That's so cool.
And so I put them in little baggies for her. So, and then we also, on top of that, which I need to turn in tomorrow, are all the presents and gift cards and stuff for the Helping Kids thing. So,
Awesome.
And I mean, realistically, probably only about 25 kids participated in either and everything all together, but it's better than nothing. So, yeah.
I think so. I mean, I'm sorry you felt shot down.
Yeah.
I think it was like we were, and that's good to know though. I mean, I think I like that you can feel open about, because I mean that's part of something I would want to work on, is that no one would feel that way when we're challenging each other, right? Because that kind of, when we're pushing each other, I know the three of us, because we work together and we work together and we're always like, well, what about,
Yeah.
And so it's like that thin line of, if you don't have a built, established relationship and you get together and then you do that's an honest feeling that comes out of that. So that, I mean, I would never want anybody to feel that way.
Yeah,
because
some of us are used to feeling harassed
by
by Jared.
I get calls. You are the worst participant ever.
Well, you
I
are.
do. She is.
I am. But wait, can I just interject?
Yeah.
I talked about the jeans
Yeah.
at the last meeting.
Yeah. And that was, I don't know, and like, because I remember us
I
talking
knew I
about,
was going to do that. all
I
along.
just remember someone saying we want the kids to physically do something, not to just bring something in. And then we had the conversation about how, I don't
And I remember, I think I probably brought it up
Yeah.
because I remember thinking that was my perception of the challenge.
Yeah.
Not that was
what-
wrong.
yeah.
Not that
Yeah.
was right or wrong, but my perception was that, hey, isn't the goal to get the students to have an experience with that transaction.
And the debate was kind of, because
That would be cool.
someone was saying that their kids don't have a lot of money, but they have a lot of time.
Right.
That is the opposite of our perspective at Huntington.
Right.
The majority of our kids have a lot more money.
Right.
Not all of them, obviously, across the board, but very few of our kids have a lot of extra time.
Right.
And so to try to organize something, either in class, I don't have time to do that, or out of class, they don't have any extra time, like in sports and in APA and in this and in that, so the time aspect was what was hard for me. And so getting them to, so it's like I did something during tutorial one day and then bringing stuff in, so.
But and I also feel like each participant's going to be at a different level in terms of how much they've done community service, been involved with community service in the past.
Yeah.
So some people are really familiar with how to get a group involved in something and have connections with a charity already. So their challenge is going to look different from the challenge of someone who, I've never had a bottle cap donated in my class, you know, for the bottle
Pop
cap
tab
donated. Yeah, the
thing or
pop tab
whatever.
thing.
Yeah.
And so for me, when I think I used, it was your idea, the options and the days of thanks and giving them, so I gave them different things to participate in, but they were, most of them were small things like donating jeans, like piggybacking onto Palmer's, the pop tabs, the toy drive were listed on there, and then I gave the option of something you already participate in. And then we had this whole part where just do something nice for people on campus. And so that is pretty simple. There's not a lot of class time or even a lot of organization on my part. But it's something I never did before, and I got more pop tabs and I got some jeans that I've never had a lot of participation in that before. So I feel like even if you felt like you did something small,
Still something.
you did something. And I did like the reactions I got from the students.
That was what my next question is, so I think the bottom line is, I think the greeting students at the door, it was like you guys had overwhelming experience of how that basically changed the beginning of your year. Sitting,
Is
continuing
anyone
not
else
to
still
sit.
doing that too? Okay.
Yeah, and you know, so to me, it was
Not
like,
always,
to me, that challenge was just as the outsider hearing dialogue, it was like, wow, that really changed my classroom environment. That changed my student behavior. And then going to commit not to sit, it was kind of like, yeah, that makes a difference. They're talking to me more. They're asking questions. So I think my question is now, was challenge 3, did you have some type of awakening within your students, like that you feel that there's value into implementing some type of community project in your classroom?
For me, I'll be honest, when I did the 10 days of things, as I had blogged about, I'm like, I was struggling to come up with the idea, and then I realized, okay, a lot of students that go to Edison High School are in a bubble. They don't understand how much they have to be thankful for. They don't understand even what it means to tell their mom, hey, thanks for like being here at 3 o'clock to give me my cleats that I forgot for practice, and then coming back at 4:30 to pick me up from practice. Like they really don't have that concept. So I just actually, because that was an assignment, and so I just actually graded it, and I was crying through most of their responses. Like the fact that the kids were so honest about who they texted, who they talked to, and they even, because they didn't have to tell me why they text or talked to the people, but a lot of them wanted to share what specifically it was they were thankful for. And I can't tell you how many of the reflections came back of, I'm really naive. I was not aware. I'm very selfish. I need to be more grateful. Like it was really eye-opening. And then that bled into the community service project, which was my extra credit, which if you do it alone, anything you're passionate about, you get this many points. If you get your group, because they're in collaborative pods from like day one anyways, if you get your whole group, you get an additional 10 points. You get the whole class an additional 10 points. And in a math classroom, 30 points of extra credit, like they finally are starting to understand what a gift that is. No, it is huge. Like, what did you just do? And I was really blown away that a good majority of the kids did it individually. I had handfuls of groups, but third period, they rallied and 2 kids, and they're like, how are we going to get everyone to do it? I'm like, it's going to take someone to step up. It's going to take someone to bring, I'm like, this is how big movements happen in the community. I need you to realize that if you want to make an impact in the world, it's going to take a leader. And every kid in the class donated to ICANN. So third period is going to get the 30 points extra credit, which I was like, and it came together last week, but it came together. I was like blown away that the kids actually, and I mean, granted, it was only a can of food, but
Everyone
every
did it.
kid did it. And it wasn't like, and I told him, I said, I don't want to hear stories that somebody bought 30 cans of food and you all met in the bowl. Like, don't let me hear that story. And they're like, no. And most of the pictures they turned in, it was them at home getting the can out of their cupboard. So it was pretty cool. So I think for sure it's positive, and that these kids, all kids, every person, they need to realize all that they're thankful for. So
Do you, when you give extra credit for something like that, in your mind, because this is where I go with it, because I'm cynical and old and bitter. But, I mean, did they do it for the extra credit, or did they do it for the project? Like, I'm not offering, well, if they bring in jeans, they don't get extra credit. If they reach out to their community to ask for jeans, then I give them 5 points of extra credit.
right.
But, you know what I mean?
For me, so the 10 days of thanks was just an assignment because I knew where, being a former teen who grew up in Huntington Beach, I kind of was able to know what shoes they were in. So I'm like, they need to first get the gratitude part. So then, and a lot of them in
Did
their
they get
community
points?
service,
They got
that was
points for the
mandatory
assignment?
points though, that was
Okay.
like, had to do it or you're gonna fail it, and that's gonna affect your grade negatively instead of helping your grade. Then on top of it, the community service project, most of them said in their reflection, in their 10 days of thanks reflection, I need to do more for others. And then in their community service project reflection that they had to write, they were very much like, this is something I wanted to do. This was not something I had to do. And especially third period, like a lot of them even, and to me it's like, it was kind of like twofold, whether they did it generally for the community service, but the fact that they did it because I didn't want to let the rest of my class down. I knew the rest of my class was going to do it. And then hopefully that bleeds to like
For 30 points extra credit, the rest of the class would kill them.
there were a couple of, we'll call them slackers in the class. And not only did they have to bring the can, but they had to submit the assignment on Canvas and give the reflection. So it wasn't just like, oh, they
Easy,
got
I
to
brought
drop
the
the
can.
can. They had to give the reflection on what they learned, how what they did was beneficial to the class, society, how the act could go beyond and above. And most of them were like, okay, I'm beginning to get how just the world works. Because again, a lot of our students at Edison are they can be somewhat sheltered about how life happens outside of Huntington Beach.
I had the same thing with you though, with the extra credit and like why the reasoning for them doing it. Because when I first brought it up to my kids, it's like, this is the thing we're gonna, like, when they decided on what they were gonna do, the first question in my third period was, do we get extra credit for doing it? And I was like, no. And I had it on my agenda, like my list of things we're doing, that was like number 3 was be awesome humans. And I was like, we're gonna be awesome humans. Like, do this just because you're awesome, not because you're getting extra. And half the class was like, okay, whatever. Like at that point, they just, and none of, I don't think, maybe 2-3 people in third period participated. So,
Because public education has trained them well to
exactly.
go for the carrots
Yeah.
or flee from the sticks.
Well, let me bring it to Kim, because you did something super cool, I think. But it was an in-class thing, so it wasn't voluntary, so it couldn't be, I didn't want point. It was like,
Yeah.
actually, we're doing this as a class. It was kind of, we're doing it as a class, and maybe just give us a brief overview of what you did, and then your responses from the first activity.
Oh, yeah, and I shared with you the Google Form
Yes.
responses. I don't know if you
Yeah, I
saw
did.
those
I
at all.
perused them.
But so what I decided to do, I kind of hit a wall and I wasn't sure what to do, and then we were going to do a food drive and I wasn't happy, and then all of a sudden I went to happy hour and I just kind of started talking. Brian was there, and two special ed teachers, one from your school, one from my school, were there. Just kind of started thinking and kind of came to this conclusion that we have the Voices program. I don't know if you all have it at your schools as well, but Voices are the Voices students have any range of kind of special needs students, so they can be kind of all over the place in terms of range of abilities and disabilities. And so on our campus, they try to do a lot of social activities. They try to, like they'll take them to Starbucks and make them order a drink and have them count out the change and pay for it. And they do all of the recycling on our campus, so it's interactions more with, gen ed students and in the world and, things like that. So I just started thinking about it, and I was like, why am I going to look outside of the school when we have this Voices program here on campus? And so just kind of talked to my students a little bit, and I asked them if they knew what Voices was, and we have something called Boys League at our school. Do you have Boys League and Girls League at your school?
We had it in my high school.
Right, and so it's, some of my students are in Boys League and Girls League, so they do things with Voices already, so some of the kids were familiar with it. And I said, hey, how about we fundraise some money? And I had talked to the Voices coordinator the day before I presented it to them, and she said they wanted to enter an art contest, but they didn't have the supplies. They needed paints and materials and paper and all kinds of stuff. I said, okay, how about we fundraise to pay for all of those supplies, but then my students help your students with the actual project. And so I presented the idea to them, and they were absolutely fine with it. All I did was give them like a plastic baggie, and I had made labels like from the printer that just said like volunteers for Voices, please donate any change you may have. And it turns out we ended up collecting, I think, like $310 or something in the 5 days that we collected. And so we purchased all the art supplies. We still have $235 left over. So the students are going, I think they're going to try and take like 24 students on an art-related field trip. So that should defray the costs of them going on this other field trip as well. So we'll meet 3 times. We did the initial meeting where the students began working on the projects and met their partners and got to know each other a little bit. We'll do one more meeting where they finish the projects, and then we'll do kind of like a congratulatory meeting where we'll hopefully have, pizza for lunch, and they'll, I'm thinking that my students will make them some sort of like thank you card or a certificate or something of completion, and they'll present it to their partners. And so it was nice. It was really nice for them to see a whole section of students on our campus they don't normally see or interact with. And I thought it was good from the other students' perspective because they seem pretty excited about meeting gen ed kids who they don't really get to interact with a lot, and it was just a really good experience a lot of positive feedback.
Revelations with your gen ed kids about the experience? Like, did it change them or did it enlighten them?
In some cases, like I said, I did a Google form and asked them certain questions so I could get feedback from them specifically. And they were all pleasantly surprised. I think some of them were kind of scared because they didn't know what to expect or how impacted maybe their partner would be. And the interactions were really quite positive. A lot of the kids, you could see a lot of giggling and laughing. And so it was nice for my students because, like they said, I would have never met this kid otherwise. I would have never seen this kid otherwise. So for them to have an opportunity to, see someone else on our campus, and maybe have an appreciation and understanding a little bit more of, students with special needs and people with special needs. To me, I thought that was important. And there was never any talk of extra credit. There was never any talk of any of that. It was just like, this is what we're doing, so let's all jump in and do it. And the reaction was really good. It was really positive.
The first 2 challenges, I think it was like overwhelming. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it impacted my class and the behavior and everything right away. And then I had asked the question, do you guys think that this kind of challenge something community? It was hard, but do you think that there was value in taking any or a little or a lot of class time? And that was kind of what we were sharing.
I definitely liked it. It kind of dovetailed nicely with something I had been doing. I'd been doing the free Science of Happiness course through UC Berkeley, and that was like a 10-week course. And a big portion, like one session, was just about volunteerism, giving back, doing something. When you're feeling down, the best thing you could do is do something for others. And so I kind of promoted that. I have a lot of students with special needs, and many of them have emotional problems, and things are rough at home, of course, because that doesn't that adds to their issues at school. So instead of wallowing in all that, it was better that we do something. So we did do the simple one, the let's send out some thank yous to people and kind of track them. And then on top of that, I offered them cards and envelopes in class so that they could send out mailed thank yous to people, because I said people really appreciate that. Nobody ever does it. It's the most fun to receive. And so they did spend a lot of time, and I really had them go back and think in the past, pick a favorite teacher, pick a principal or a counselor, somebody. And we had to do a lot of research to find where these people are now. And we're hoping it gets to them. We can't guarantee that'll be the case. But that some of the kids have been moved around a lot. They've been to 5 different schools and they're in the 10th grade. So they'd say, well, it was a school out in the Antelope Valley and it was called such and such and it was the principal and I really loved her. And I said, well, let's send it. And we'll, even if she's not there, somebody else may know where she is and it may get forwarded on. And if not, at least it's out in the world and it's something good. And the other thing was we created a good thoughts chain, which I've done before. You know how you just link. Oh, yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. But I use Christmas cards and I cut them all up and the kids could just come in whenever they wanted, tutorial at break, at lunch, whenever, and just add stuff to it. And so we're just sort of winding it around the room for Christmas instead of a bunch of other Christmas decorations. And it's funny because some kids I wouldn't think would think that was a fun activity actually come in and go out of their way to add another good thought. And I just said, we're just going to kind of turn everything on its head. Instead of always saying, what terrible thing happened that day, you're going to stop and think of what good thing went on. Because for every bad, there's probably a couple of good. So we just spent a lot of focus on kind of promoting good feelings inside and making yourself happy. So we didn't really reach the whole community, just our tiny community at this point.
Good.
My kids asked me if we could do something like that again. And it's like, okay, well, we can try.
It was cool.
Yeah, we ended up making 5 bins of a lot of stuff in them instead of 4. And when I told them, originally the plan was to send them to Second Harvest Food Bank. And later I got the email about the kids, some families in the school that needed, they were in desperate need of everything, not just food. So I figured, why not just give it to students, since we did mention there are some students in the school that just go for the food. And when I told them that we were going to do that, I guess some of them maybe didn't really listen like they usually do sometimes. But then when I said later on the day, I think it was the day before it was over, I told them again, and they're like, why didn't you tell us? Can we bring sweaters? Can we bring this? I have a bunch of pants and I bought some coats and I don't need them. And I was like, well, you can bring them if you want. And I was like, but I don't know sizes. I don't know this families. I don't know the kids. Well, what if they don't need them? I'm like, well, I'm sure they'll do something with it. I guess the kid really forgot, but later they were like, we should really do it's winter's coming, they're going to be cold. I'm like, yeah, they're going to be cold. Bring the stuff. I mean, I'm sure we can get it to the students anyway. So they did ask me, are we going to do it again for Christmas? Like, after Thanksgiving break, we only have 3 weeks. I'm like, well, we can do it in 3 weeks. We did it in 1. I'm like, yeah, I know, but we have things to get to too, but we can do it. I mean, if you want to bring it and we'll figure it out. But they really liked it. They wanted to do it again by the end of the year. They're like, the summer is long. That was just 1 week, but the summer is really long. I'm like, yeah, the summer is long. Let's try it
So
again.
Karen did big bins and they had everything, toiletries, and they filled up the bins, and she made it a class contest to see which period brought the most items, and then they got something like
I bought them pizza that day.
pizza.
So, and then they got to put the bins together. The class that brought the most, they were the ones that counted everything and split everything evenly. It was so funny. I had my mom come and watch them, and I was just standing there. They were like, okay, all the toilet paper over there, all the cans over here, let's split up the cans to make sure that they all get some meat and some tuna, and they don't all just get vegetables, so let's split it up evenly. And then they just took over. And I was just like, okay, do you guys need peanut bags or something? Bags are over here. Remember, the pizza's getting cold. And I had one student who was like, there's no time for that right now. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry. Bad of me to think of eating pizza right now. But
Well, it was a challenge, and I actually, I loved the emails, like the struggle and people giving each other ideas, and, we met in class, and, my thought is, like, these are teachers that volunteered to do this. These are the teachers of the teachers. This is, like, creme de la creme, like, always wanting to try new things. And we still struggle. Like, we still struggle finding time. I still struggle getting to your classes. I send I get it. I 100% get it. And it's like, how, we're just looking at systems of PD. Like, how do we make PD work? How can we create something that works? And it doesn't always work, even when we think we've got a cool system. And I think that's what's been really enlightening. But then it does work. Like, and then you see, like, she's not here, I'm not, but, like, Sina's like, okay, I'm going to do it. It's coming in the future. And it's like, yeah, that's okay. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, and there's nothing wrong. It's 25 kids.
Yeah.
Versus you've never done it before. Zero or 25. Like, and then maybe you think of something in the next time in the year or. Yeah, and I don't know. I just want to say, like, it's so inspiring to be in that. And even when I'm glad you guys are blogging about the struggle and blogging about what makes it hard. And I know, like, Z-Bar's like, I talked to him last week. He's like, I'm doing too many new things this year, because he's the type that says yes to everything. Like, hey, you want to do teacher challenge? Hey, you want to do this? Hey, you want to do that? And he's like, yeah, I do. And we kind of, this is the group that does that. And then
It all comes down to like,
then we gotta do it.
And then December hits, and we're like, oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
So, part of today was like, hey, let's readjust time. Like, I think the point when we went into this and the three of us were looking at PD and just like, this doesn't work. There's and it's accountability is the word, but it's not even that. It's just like, we don't allow ourselves time to implement the stuff we learn and work. We get carried away with, we got to get through Hamlet. We got to get through integers. I don't know. Whatever. Whatever it is. And we don't allow ourselves the time. And so generically we gave 30 days. Oh, we're going to give you 30 days. So that allows time to do it. But there's not a timeline, right? It's just, it's like, let's implement these.
I think this
going
has
all these
helped
strategies
too, though, to implement other things. Like, I was like anti-Canvas, and the like one of the few in the district, but I was very anti-Canvas. And then I gave the 10 days of thanks assignment, and I'm like, oh, I'm not going to be able to grade all of those by hand. And so they had to turn it in Canvas, and I graded them today, and it was so empowering. It kind of helped me roll in, because I'm struggling with challenge 4 of contacting parents. And then after reading 10 days of thanks, I realized I shouldn't contact some of the parents, because some of these kids do not have good home lives. And so I really paid attention to those ones. So when I had the comment box in Canvas, I was writing them a paragraph back about positive, characteristics that I like in, them, or that I enjoy, like if they smile every day, or I'm so proud of them for working hard, even though math's a struggle. And it's like, I know that other subjects, maybe you do this, but on math tests, when we're grading math tests, like you write, wow, good job. Like, or maybe I'm not writing them a very personal message usually. And so for me, that was really empowering. So not only did I get to challenge myself, but I got to use Canvas, and it kind of is an unexpected consequence of, I'm like, okay, for those students that just their parents don't even deserve to be contacted, because some of what I read, I'm like, I will adopt you after reading that. Mm-hmm. It's going to empower them to read what I wrote, or not, I don't know, empower, but it'll touch them more so than me calling their parent. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of helped me also alleviate the stress. And I love how you mentioned that, because I was really wrapped up with the timeline, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my 30 days just went. But then knowing that it's not a pass or fail, it's are we trying to make a part of our classroom or a part of our teaching better? Mm-hmm. And if I am, I'm succeeding. Mm-hmm. If I'm trying, I'm succeeding.
Right, so we're gonna go to calling home, because I think we've beat the challenge 3 down, but calling home, and I'm gonna pick on you because I know you did a few. So we have a lot of EL students at Westminster. Don't leave yet, because I want you to hear this.
Okay.
And I don't want you to panic about it, but, so the question is, how do we call our Vietnamese and our Hispanic students, right? So we have translators, we have people in our Title I office that can do it, and part of it is, and we can't ever meet, so we're always like talking as we're walking, but it's like, part of it is you almost have, as a teacher, I would think you would have to be there making the phone calls with that translator, because that's part of the challenge is, what are you seeing and reflecting and discovering as you make these calls home? And I had told, and Eric's not here, Eric Dykes, but I said, start with your worst students. Like because you may not get to all 180. Well, there's no timeline, so you may. But start with the ones who really need a good call home, and then make your way through, or find other avenues. What have you discovered? Anything?
Well, today I think I had about 8 students who came up to me and said, "Can you please call my parents?" So what
How many have you called so far?
I'm about 30 deep, and that's in 2 days. So I started yesterday.
These two are insane. So,
Just a
like,
conference
don't
period.
ever-
Honestly, just a conference period, sometime after school. Most conversations are 2 to 4 minutes, maybe. It's quick. I worked in some Spanish. That didn't go well. At one point, well, a couple different things, but originally I started calling parents. I kind of stuck with the parents who I assumed spoke English to make my life a little easier. Because when you look at your class roster, like at Westminster, 80%, 90% don't say English. But at the same time, you have a lot of kids whose parents do speak some English, but obviously they prefer a different language. Started calling, and it's just hilarious because parents are just like, okay, and I go, you know what, I just wanted to thank you because I really enjoy having your kid in class. They're very respectful, very polite, working hard, and I see growth in them, and I just wanted to thank you because obviously you're playing a major role in that too. They're like, okay, thank you, thanks.
Yeah.
It's just, and it just turns. And then all of a sudden, this conversation where you could tell in the beginning they really didn't want to talk to you, now they're like, thanks, we've been working on them, like just awesome. I can't say enough about it. These last 2 days have really kind of got me going. Like today, I talked to you, and then I went back to my classroom. I'm like, I want to make more calls. And I made a few more. Yesterday after school, I had a couple students in my class. I asked them to translate some sentences in Spanish. They jotted that down, and they were in the classroom while I was making the conversation, or while I was making the calls. And so at one point, I'm trying to speak Spanish, which is terrible because my mom's from Mexico. But they're like dying laughing. Like they're in the background just like, oh my God. At one point, I'm pretty sure instead of saying your daughter, I called her my daughter. So that was a bit awkward, and she corrected me. I think she corrected me. But yeah, like even those students who I called home and spoke Spanish and kind of read my lines, they talked to me today, and they're like, "Oh, you talked to my mom?" Like, thank you. It's been pretty cool. It's been very positive, and like I said, I have students who are asking me to call home. One student in my 6th period, she said, "Mr. Steer, can you call my mom by tomorrow?" And I'm like, yeah, I'll probably work in the call. I'm like, well, why? What's tomorrow? She's like, well, we're gonna go to the mall after school. And so,
told her some good things about
and I've had a number of those students that are like, oh, we went out to dinner last night because like you called.
Oh, that's
or like I got $5. I'm like, $5? Like, what?
Good job. Good job.
Yeah.
That call was worth 10, man.
Yeah, it's a good call.
I had a parent who I spoke to yesterday who called back today, and she just said, you know, I've been thinking about it, and I just thought that was an awesome thing that you did that, and I know I said thank you yesterday, but we really appreciate it, and so I don't know, and you see the kids kind of pumped up and happy about it. So yeah, it is time consuming, but like I said, it's been awesome going with how we talk to all these kids who don't necessarily speak the language that I can't, well, that I'm trying with them. I have today in first and second period, I was kind of talking about my experiences, and they were making fun of me because some of them were listening to my Spanish yesterday. And I probably had about 15 students who said, Mr. Stero, like after school tomorrow, like, do you want me to make calls for you? So that's my route. I'm just going to go with the
Tell the kids what
students.
you like to say and have the kids call you, maybe?
But they're not calling their own parents,
Yeah.
but like, yeah, they'll
They'll call others.
yeah, and like they're like super excited about that. And I'm kind of excited to have them there and to be a part of that, and so I don't have to call someone my daughter when she's not, so yeah.
Are you, the only thing concerned with that, and just because I'm, you know, whatever, it's just saying positive things, not really talking about their grade or anything like that. Like if you're having other students, like, does that make any sense?
Yeah, like, I haven't said anything about
Okay.
a grade
Yeah,
or
just like that if you're
percentage or
having other
anything.
students make the call, the
Have the
confidentiality
parents
or
brought it up?
random stuff.
Here and there, for the most part, not really. Like when you tell a parent, like again, when they hear that you're Mr. Sira and you're a teacher, they're just assuming the worst. And so when you just say, you know, like I just wanted to thank you for the help, and I just want to tell you that I've seen improvement in your kid, and he's working well. They're happy with that. They're not really caring about the grade. And of course, like you have students who, I'm looking at students today, and they'll have like a C in my classroom, and then, or in my class, and then they'll have Fs across the board. And so talking to a parent, just say like, hey, you know, like I know she's struggling, but she's very respectful. She's working hard in my class. She's doing what she's needing to do, and I'm here to help with whatever she needs. So yeah, again, you might look at it and see the negative, but you got to figure out how to swing it to the positive side, because there even those kids who drive you crazy, there's something positive there, you know.
When you have troubled like if you have kids that are giving you a hard time, find something positive, call home. And I could not believe the impact that made. And anytime now when I meet with teachers and they're having behavioral things, and I'm always like, have you called home? And I remember Darla, your student teacher, was the same thing. It's like, have you called home? It doesn't, it didn't always work for her, but it was like, I just saw it work so many times. And so I'm excited for you guys to do it. I know this one's hard because it is time consuming, and it's harder for you guys because more 70% or more than half of the parents don't speak English. So you have my support. I don't speak Vietnamese, nor do I speak Spanish. But it sounds like you found a solution without even kind
that hard.
of looking at and even if it's just calling. I love you guys all send me emails like about little successes and big successes and challenges. And I mean, I really wanted I would love for him to be on the side of the parent. I'd love to capture that video. I don't know if it's possible. I have limited time with Way. That's why it's hard to get to you. It's like I can come video, but I'm going to tell you it's not going to look anything like what he does. So, bear with me, but we're documenting this process. I mean, it's pretty cool. I'm still struggling with how we're getting, how Edutopia gets out to so many people, how, I just sharing it with our master's class, teachers love the idea, they're like, yeah, and have questions and want to know how it's working and how it's not working. And there's a part of me that wants to get it out to more people. So I had Kendra sign this. We're taking the system of Teacher Challenge, basically voluntary teachers getting together, identifying 7 data-driven strategies, 7 ideas that you're giving yourselves like a 30-day window to actually implement it with fidelity. You've got peer support, we meet monthly, we blog, we share emails, all of that stuff. And so the questions are kind of going to be, we'd like to survey you guys, and we'd like to just use the Teacher Challenge teachers plus Jesus, our webmaster, Connie Mayhew, Tway, because he's been involved. So they'll also do the surveys, but kind of baseline, what do you guys think of traditional PDs? So we'll give you guys some questions about that in like the beginning of January. And then we'd like to interview each one of you. Tway's gonna have some more time because he's free from Chapman in January.
My winter break goes all throughout January.
So I'm like, yes.
No, I'm
so
not.
jealous.
So we'd like to, we'll have interview questions. We'll give them to you before. It's nothing. We actually give you pseudonyms. I mean, so the risk is, can people really figure out through our action research who you are? Yeah, because our public website, but we want you guys to be honest. We want it to read like we want the truth. Is it not work? Because it does it work, does it not work? Do you feel supported, do you not feel supported? And part of it is we want real data. Like we want to know your ideas of traditional PD and past PDs and this one. Come in. Don't worry. So that being said, we're working hard to. We'll keep it all so you guys can read anything that we've written so far. It's not going to be necessarily about the students and how they've reacted and did you do this challenge. It's not about that. It's about the system of PD that the Teacher Challenge has given to you in the last 4 months, and it's just comparing it to previous. Am I missing anything, ladies?
No, and you're emphasizing that we're focusing on the system, but we have to use like this month window, so it's arbitrarily this challenge,
Right.
But the actual challenge is irrelevant, and so we're documenting the process, just like we're meeting now, the blogs and the discussions and things like that. Just the nature of it, rather than the content.
Yeah. So back to content, challenge 4 officially has started. Officially, I believe, ends like mid-January. It's gonna take people longer. We totally know some people haven't finished challenge 3. That's fine. We're not here to police it. We're just here to be like, come on, we can do it, find something. And so that being said, I hope everybody is at ease. Please send group text. I think, I want to say it was Misha that sent the original, like whatever it was, it's like, I was happy. That's why I was.
Email.
I was like, cool, we have each other's numbers.
I was gonna say, well, then I'm not in that group because I'm not.
Email, sorry.
Emails.
I was
emails.
bummed out a little bit. And I was like, who got digits and why didn't I?
But we will be begging you, hey, can we come? Can we interview you? Probably I will. I don't want to take these 2 out of class, and I do have a lot going on in January, but we have to make it happen. So I know it's very easy for us to get FV people. It's very easy for us to get WHS people, but we have to get everybody this time for this interview. So I will be finding you guys and saying, answer these interviews. Here's a survey. We'll do Survey Monkey, so that will be online, but the interview will be face-to-face. And then we may transcribe some of the stuff that's already public. And then I'm gonna send an email out Friday. If over break, you guys can do us a favor, and it is a favor because it's nothing that is, if you guys can start responding to some of the previous blogs so we can use that data. And we don't, it's not like we want artificial data because we're not talking about if you're doing it, but that we can use some of the text as textual support.
I know that I will read a blog because it'll be sent, or someone like will have
I
commented on
tried
it.
to
and
send it to you all now, which I wasn't
But-
doing before.
having to log in to make the comment, I wish there was a way that I didn't have to go to the website, because for some reason the
we just
website's
use
slow
Facebook?
to load on my computer every time. So when I try, if I want to make a comment on a comment, I know, but I'll have to go back and.
I'll ask Jesus how
Because
that.
the only times I've ended up commenting were times that I went on to write my own blog, and then there could have been interterm times.
Got it.
I don't know.
It's definitely laborious.
I don't have my settings set up, so I don't know. I don't get, like, I'll go back, like, later and look and be like, oh, people commented on my thing. And
Yeah.
so I don't know, and I don't know how to, I haven't had time to fix it. I think
it's
so.
It's
It's happened before, but it hasn't happened every
I don't know.
time.
Oh, it is
Yeah.
every time.
Something.
I don't
We're
know.
not-
I've gotten one before, but not otherwise.
Settings.
I don't
Can I
know.
go
But
back and
the
challenge
cool
this
thing
real
is,
quick?
the blogs are really good. Like, I really love reading your guys' blogs, and I find myself
When we do it there.
not
Yeah,
always
when-
responding.
I know,
to
I
you.
read everyone's, I'm like, wow.
I know. So,
You wanted to go back?
oh, sorry, was I?
With challenge 4, because you're probably in the boat that I was like 3 days ago, where I'm like, I don't want to do this. Like, how am I going to do this? Within like 5 phone calls, I was like kicking myself because I'm like, why haven't I been doing this
See, I
for
hope.
the 10 years of my career? Like, I just felt like an idiot that I'd never even thought about something like
Can you
that.
please log that?
Yes, I know I need to.
So you said to start with like the worst kids or
I just
I'm
what
started.
did you? I mean, are you gonna do like
Did you?
alphabetically?
No.
Because I went through of like
I don't know. I
went
wasn't
through
part
with
of that conversation with them.
something good happened, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna call the parents of that like the kids did this good thing.
I'm gonna
and
go
then the
on
next day, I
that.
tried to find like during the day like some kids that like, okay, what are some things that these kids did that today that was like different or new or good or something like that. And I called 2 kids that have F's in my class that one of them like never speaks ever. But was actually like volunteering, and even if his like answers were spoken this loud, I would like, yes, what did you say? Like pulling that out. But so I'm trying to figure out like how to go through and do it, because I've been doing it where I was trying to look for something
Something specific.
but I think there's some kids that I might not like. I'm not looking specifically at like this kid. What is this kid doing today? Just as a class as a whole, who can I pull out of? But I feel like there's some kids that I won't be able to pull out that way. And then if I just kind of also do it just like alphabetically, like, okay, these are the 5, let's think today, what did this kid do that I can, like, or what has this kid been doing lately? So I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah, have you
you know.
been just more generically really polite? I've seen some growth.
having them in class.
No, but it's true.
And then others
it's not.
specific-
It's
Yeah,
not
so I'm not saying like lying, yeah,
Specific.
but like,
Incident.
for the most, like, I guess if I get really stuck in it, I think I've done this only like twice. I guess my go-to is we do weekly vocabulary, and I don't know, my class average is about 95%. Like, that's the class average. And so, like, worst case scenario, then I'm like, hey, I just wanted to tell you, like, they got 100% on the vocab quiz last week, and but there's always something else.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to work on it. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, I really like your kid shoes, but no. But no, like I said, it's been awesome. It's
Yeah.
I'm completely enthusiastic about it. Like I said, I'm not lying. When I left Crystal's office, I'm like, all right, I got like 10 minutes. I'm gonna make some phone calls. I don't know. And the kids are like totally on board, which is hilarious. Because when I kind of told them in the beginning, I just said, hey, I'm gonna make phone calls home. That was like, they hated me for a good while. And then once word kind of started getting out, and I started asking kids like, hey, if I call home, like, is there someone, if I'm trying to speak English with them, like, is there someone, would you prefer mom, dad, or like aunt, uncle, who? at first, like, they're like, oh, that they don't speak English at all. I'm like, well, I'll get a translator. They're like, oh, well, they probably won't answer. So like
Yeah.
that.
Trying to get you
And then
to
I'm
not do
like,
it.
do you think I'm going to say a whole lot of negative things? They're like, what would I say if it was negative? I don't know. I'm like, right, it's gonna be positive, we'll be fine, like, trust me. And then like the next day, they're like, you called my mom.
I got $5.
Yeah, so they're like excited. It's been very cool.
Well, I was just thinking, as I'm preparing to launch on this next challenge, like, an idea that I had is, we'll be looking at our students differently if we know we're looking for something positive to say about them. And so, I'm gonna get my notebook out, I'm gonna have that, ready to go. So if I notice something small or little, then I'll just make a note of that, so I could go back and like, I could use that as a reference, so I'm not talking about their shoes.
Yeah, that's smart.
That what?
Her every
that's
day
smart.
on time. She has her notebook with her.
Yeah.
She may not be writing anything down, but she's in the room.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
Sure.
half the battle, is getting them through the door. And they're not
I
disrupted.
think that's really insightful of Sean, and I think that you're totally right about that, because how helpful is it to have those few kids that you can rely on to, like, just be in their seat and reading when SSR starts,
Whatever it is.
And I-
Well, and you're seeing, I mean, it's just changing your own attitude towards
Right,
your
that's
students,
the-
because you're not going like, you're thinking, okay, I'm looking for positive, what can I report home? And then you're not looking at what you usually see in that student, which is they're late or they don't have their pencil. So you're seeing that student new, because you're not going to your own stereotypes that you have
See,
of them.
I'm seeing it more as a group too, the way that you're describing it though, because my kids have all these chances for each one of them, their measure of success is just so different. For one kid, just like loading the film is like, you should throw a party. And for another kid, like, they're going to be exhibited in the Laguna Art Festival in summertime. So, but I think that, like, just looking as a group, generally speaking, you're like, hey, so-and-so worked really hard on loading their film and they finally got it. So.
And it doesn't even have to be with the actual, like, curriculum of the class.
Yeah.
And it could be, it kind of depends on the kid, but like yesterday, and this was a message, and I've only left 2 messages so far, and one parent called me back. But yesterday, I called a student who's probably started missing last couple of weeks, kind of hit or miss, but, and I'll see him in the morning, so like he's ditching 6th period or maybe after lunch or whatever it is. So it's like, okay, how am I going to try to keep this positive? And on the voicemail, I just said, I really enjoy when your son's in class, and I haven't seen him in the last couple of days. Like, I hope everything's okay. But if you want to talk to me, like, here's my number. But yeah, like you figure out how to kind of spin it in a positive way. And I don't know, I mean that. Like, when he's there, he's working hard for me. Like, I know he struggles in other classes, but I've never had a problem with him. And like, I'm kind of upset and worried too, but that I haven't seen him, and so like, what's going on?
Now that you say that, that actually reminds me. So I made my phone calls last week. I did some on Thursday and some on Friday. I did 2 on Friday, and one was a kid of mine who generally misses once or twice a week. That's like normal. It's maybe 3 times. When I called, I just left a message with the mom. But he's been here every day since then, which is not, it's only Wednesday, but he's actually been at school every day since then after me calling him. So I don't know if that like helps. And I don't know.
I think they know more that you care if you'll take that
Yeah.
3 minutes. They don't know 3 minutes, they just
Yeah.
know you called. The other thing I've seen, because I hold IEPs obviously for 28 kids every year, when you tell a parent, especially if a parent, like a lot of the parents I see have had a long, hard road through school, from elementary on. They have not been in with the conferences that say, we love your kid, she's fabulous, she's perfect. So every meeting, we always open with the best stuff. And I literally, like, I don't know, maybe a month ago, I had a parent, and she started crying, and she just said, oh my God, middle school has been so hard, and every meeting was torture, and she was tortured, and now it just feels like the sun's coming out, and I don't know. So those little things can really make a difference when they've had a long, hard road. And the ones that are doing the worst always have.
Negative thing I guess I could say about it so far was a girl who had been absent for like 2 days, so she's kind of missed like the conversations that I've had with she was in class today, and I was just asking a couple kids like, who should I call, like mother or father, like what route? And then she asked someone else like, why is he calling home? And then another student goes, remember like the teacher challenge? Because like they're aware of the teacher challenge. I've shown them the videos. And like that infuriated me. Like I was so mad because I should have been doing this all along.
Yeah.
Like, that's the reason for it.
Yeah, and I'm
But
like,
next year-
like I'm not
Next year, you'll just be doing it.
because I don't know, I could lie to you guys and say, oh yeah, I called everyone like but like it just made me upset that like, I don't know, like I should have been doing this all along, and that like, in a sense, yeah, I am doing it for the teacher challenge, but like now that I'm going, like it's completely for
voluntary,
my
it's
students
not-
and I guess for me. Yeah.
But we have to learn our new ideas somewhere.
Exactly.
Not every great idea just explodes in your brain, like something popping out of Zeus's head. So I think it's okay. I grab stuff all the time and say, wow, what a great idea. And then by next year, it's my idea. And this too will be your idea.
I just have difficulty with the talking off the cuff. So the first couple phone calls I made, like my problem wasn't, oh, what do I say? You know, but I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to say. And I have to sit there and just hearing that you said, oh yeah, and sometimes I'll say this and sometimes I'll say that. And I'm like, can I write this down? Because I think once maybe I make 30 phone calls, it'll get easier, but I'm also going to watch Stephanie because I just get very nervous. But I mean, I call when I have to. But
You can watch me. It's gonna be a hot mess, but you can watch.
just, I don't know. I had a sales job once and I did the same thing. Like I had to watch somebody.
Yeah. Well, you never know what they're going to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, if they come to me with a question that I haven't prepared an answer for.
And the first two, yeah, like my ears were like bright red, like I could feel like I was like just hot and like sweaty. And then like after everything is gone so well, it's just like this is easy and this is actually kind of fun. Like I enjoy this.
The first couple I called, they've been like, oh, okay, thank you. You know, it's positive, but then they've been, is that all?
Exactly,
Right.
like very
Yes.
I've had about
Yeah.
seven or eight. I'm waiting for the but here. I'm like, no but. Like we're good. Like that's a conversation. And,
Okay, bye.
And it's like, it's so awkward and like weird, like, okay, go, okay, bye, bye.
I'll go with
Even your best of your best.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
not kidding you. You're going to call your Christine Trant, you're going to call your best student, and you're going to say that, and it still affects the parents that way. I mean, think about, like, those of you
what
who
do
are
you want?
parents, like, you get a call home like that, never.
Nobody calls. I got 3 of them and nobody calls. And good
Especially
kids,
with all
nobody
this
calls.
texting and
Even if your kid's
cellular
awesome,
telephone
you
technology.
get that call. Like,
That was a question on, just speaking of texting, on one of the emails, it said, I've been emailing parents.
Oh, yeah.
Is that okay? But,
I think emailing is so much.
Sina
It was Sina said it,
was
right?
it Sina?
I think emailing is so much easier than calling, and just in my opinion, because of the being put on the spot and the everything like that. And I feel like it has a lot, like calling is a lot more personal, but I also understand like time frame and everything else going on. Like,
but
again,
email
no
isn't
shutting
a dialogue.
it down.
Right, yes.
Like, no shutting it down. Like, do whatever you want.
It is easier,
Yeah.
right? And people are going to do what they want. Alex Jimenez, who's not here, he only has 0 period. He's pseudo participating, but he supports us. He's a cheerleader. But he, he said, well, have these people translate it into an email. I said, but email's one way.
Yeah.
yeah.
It doesn't have to be, but potentially, most likely, it's one way. It's not a dialogue. Then it's not a communication. It's a one-way communication. And the thing about the call is, I want the teacher to hear and that's it.
Yeah.
That's what gets you, right? That's the
But even
emotional
with
contact.
With calling,
Even messages.
one of my Hispanic students, or the parent yesterday, and I didn't have my Cliff Notes there where I had the translated sentences. So I'm like, oh, do you speak English? She's like, no. I'm like, un poco, a little? And she's like, no. I'm like, I said,
Me llamo.
Mr. Sierra, I said, Westminster Escuela, like, just throwing, like, words that I remember in, like, 9th grade English, like, vocabulary. And I said, estudiante es muy bien. And she goes, oh, okay. And then all of a sudden you get, like, this, gracias, thank. And that was it. Like, and again, if you're talking about a 30-second, 45-second conversation.
Maybe I should fake that I only speak Spanish.
And then today she comes in and did you call my mom? And I'm like, yeah, how'd that go? And she's like, she said you're not very good with Spanish. I'm like, you know that. I'm like, but did she understand? She said, yeah, thank you. And so, like, that was it. Like, it was positive. So, estudiante es muy bien. That's what I got.
When?
All right. Trabajadora.
Yeah.
So yeah, there are a couple.
But I guess email is, I mean, in that sense of only one way is, I guess, the same thing as leaving a message. You know?
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
don't know. And
But hopefully,
yeah, I've done that. But I've had, I've left 4 messages. I've had one parent call me back, and I had one other parent email me about it. And then another girl came into class and was like, you called my mom last night. And so it's like, I know they're getting them.
I think the hard part is
haven't said
determining the time, because we're calling them during, like, probably work hours. And so, like, a number of them, like, because we have the numbers on the portal or on Aries, and so, like, I'm calling them at work, and I kind of feel guilty.
Yeah, because I wasn't sure.
But then I've kind of realized that, like, when I apologize for calling them at work, and then they're like, it's okay, and you can tell, oh, this isn't okay. And then after 2-3 minutes of praising their son or daughter, they're like, thanks again for calling. And so, like, it doesn't seem to matter that you're calling at work and calling cell phones, and very rarely, I think, am I calling actual, like, home. Yeah.
The other thing, like at school, we have the little postcards. Do you have little postcards of good things going on at school? And then you mail it, and it'll, so it has our logo on it, and it just says, like,
That's cool.
basically, like, your kid's been caught being good. And so I thought that might be an option too, because the nice part of that is the old hang it on the fridge, like when they were little, and you can kind of hold on to it and stick it in a bulletin board and kind of keep it around for a while to say, my teacher said I was doing a good job. And like my kids too, they love getting stuff in the mail. So that could be a really fun thing to just do at any time.
that's good.
I had a student ask me, she's like, can you go home and say something bad about me? I'm like, what? Why? She's really good. She's like, she asked me the other day, she's like, do you ever do something wrong? And like when
Oh, your mom, or the
yeah,
mom
her
asked.
mom asked her if she ever did anything wrong. It's like, well, I try. And then when I told her that I was going to be calling home, she's like, can you call and say something bad? Like, she will get a kick out of it. And I'm like, I don't think that's the point. She's like, just try it. And then you can call again and say something nice, that you were just kidding or something.
So it's just for entertainment value.
Yeah.
Okay.
She wanted me to call and say something bad. She still asked me, you haven't called and said anything bad. I know, Carla, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I will.
If you'd like to cheat on this next test, I'd be glad to come.
Who said we were supposed to start with our worst kids?
You don't have to do anything.
It's just a theory.
That was what I had said, just to get started, because I think you're gonna get some interesting results.
So I heard someone say something about cheating, and so I'm not sure if you guys want to count this one or not. I did try to say some positive things, but I had a kid completely cheat on a test. He actually Googled something during the test and wrote it down word for word, exactly as what shows up
resourceful.
on Google. When I asked him about it, I said, what is this? He said, what does it matter if it's right? Was his response. So I obviously called home and talked
What
to
does it
mom.
matter if it's right?
Yeah, I was like, what is this? Where did it come from? Yeah, apparently that doesn't matter if it's right. It doesn't matter that it didn't come from his head. But that's besides the point.
But that's also, it's one incident, and so
Well, so I obviously had to call mom about that.
Right,
Like I
right.
had to call mom about that. But then we had a whole conversation about how I had him last year in Avid. I love him. He's a
So
great
you
kid.
had a positive butt.
What we can, yeah, exactly. Like
But-
what we can still do. So I'm like, that can still count.
Here's the negative
That still counts. That's all I'm saying.
But wait, I'm going to tell you all the, no, that
That was just Monday.
Just to
Parent
use
contact
the butt.
a lot.
Yeah.
Parent contact is a lot of the challenge, really.
Yeah.
And you just hope it's more positive than negative. But,
Yeah,
you know, I
But,
think that counts.
but I also think that it's like every kid is different and we're tailoring it to that student. And that, I'm sorry, but a student who cheats on a test needs some tough love. So that is a positive influence in their
Exactly.
life.
His
Like-
mom is now, he doesn't get his phone like at all at school for next week at least.
I mean, I don't know
He
what.
can't use it properly.
I don't know what your guys' belief system is on that, but that's definitely mine. I mean, you're not doing that.
Yeah.
You're not doing kids who are exhibiting those kind of behaviors. You're doing them a disservice by letting it slide.
Yeah.
Because you're doing them a disservice in the future. And so I 100% think that, especially something like that where it's so blatantly obvious, like, I think that in a way, like the positive sense is, okay, we're going to try to correct this when you're younger and not have it keep
To me,
going
that's a
on.
conversation you have with a kid, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like,
Well,
unless it's like totally ongoing, like, I tend to embarrass my kids if they're like cheating on an essay and plagiarizing, and I'll open up my computer and depending on how many times this has happened, but open up my computer. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. You got published. Like, you're online. That's amazing. And then sitting there and realize, okay, Mr. Sirigami. And I don't know, you do something like that. It usually doesn't happen again, or pull them aside. And next time that's going to go public. Like, everyone else is working their butt off in class, and you're taking the easy route. And that's not fair to everyone.
It's not the
Strangely,
first
my
time.
cheating.
Right, and-
Yeah,
and
like
you have
last year he made
Right.
zeros
Always
into
had
tens
positive
all the time. And
conversations about it.
Yeah.
Like, it's been a good thing. Like, when I had a plagiarizer or something, that changed the tone of the whole, like, I had a good relationship with that student. If you have, if it's a good, because good people make mistakes, and
yeah.
you can have a good conversation and turn that into something where I feel like he really tried hard the rest of the year to show.
I see, that's funny, because I'm kind of, people steal negatives, and that's my cheating, and I get, yeah, we straight up steal each other's negatives.
Your
So
own plagiarizing.
well,
You're
it's,
stealing from someone else.
that's the point, yeah.
But
So-
also, I don't know, looking on the bright side, like, and Kim, you know this, that a lot of our kids, a lot of my students don't care enough to cheat.
Yeah. No, I know.
And I'm saying that dead serious.
They just don't want to put the energy into it.
It's completely sad, but that's the truth.
Actually, I had a girl say that to me.
They're like, why
She was like,
would I
don't
cheat?
waste my time doing
I'm fine with
essays
the
on
grade
the
that,
internet.
whatever I get.
Right.
Yeah, well, special ed teacher at our
It
school used
does
to
take
say,
effort,
if you're not
and
cheating, you're
sometimes
not
they're
trying
not-
hard enough.
I'm not going to say it, but they're not always all together to really get it done anyway. You know what I mean? To even cheat their way through it, like they don't even know where to find the right answer.
Yeah, no, that's definitely was the case with the essay. That was true.
You understand
Gibberish.
why they might have been looking for something else because they can't do it.